What if the person you were yesterday has already died? Not in body, in belief. Every ending you've ever survived, a heartbreak, a failure, a goodbye, was not a punishment. It was a door, and you are standing in front of one right now, even if you cannot see it. Today, I will show you why every new chapter in your life requires an old one to end, and how to stop mourning your past self and start becoming the one you were always meant to be. 1. The silence before transformation. Sit with me for a moment, not with your body only, but with your mind, because what I am about to share with you cannot be understood in a hurry. It can only be understood in stillness. There is a moment, you may have felt it already, when everything around you goes quiet. Not because the world has stopped moving, but because something inside you has. A relationship ends, a dream falls apart, a version of your life that you were certain about simply stops working. And in that moment, you are not given answers. You are given silence. Most people fear this silence. They rush to fill it, with noise, with distraction, with new plans made too quickly, just to escape the discomfort of not knowing what comes next. But I want to tell you something that took me many years and many quiet mornings to understand: that silence is not empty. It is full. It is the space where transformation begins. Think of a seed buried in the earth. Before it becomes anything visible, it spends time in complete darkness. No sunlight reaches it, no one applauds it, no one even knows it is there. And yet, this is exactly where its roots begin to grow. If you dug it up too early, out of fear, out of impatience, you would destroy the very thing trying to be born. Your life works the same way. When everything feels uncertain, when you don't know who you are anymore, or what you are supposed to do next, you are not lost. You are rooting. You are in the part of the story that happens underground, where no one can see it, but where everything important is being decided. I remember a time in my own life when I sat in a room completely still, feeling as though I had failed at something I had given years of my life to. And in that silence, I did not receive a lightning bolt of clarity. I received something quieter and far more valuable: a question. Not, what should I do now, but who is asking? Who is this person sitting here afraid of an empty future? That question changed everything, because I realized the silence was not asking me to fix my life. It was asking me to meet myself honestly for the first time in a long while. So the next time silence comes to you, after a loss, after an ending, after a night where sleep will not come because your mind is too loud, do not run from it. Sit inside it. Let it strip away the noise you've been using to avoid yourself. Because on the other side of that silence is not emptiness. It is the beginning of who you are about to become. But before you can become that person, something else must happen first. Something that most people spend their whole lives trying to avoid. 2. Why pain always precedes purpose. No one chooses pain, but almost everyone who has found their purpose can trace it back to a wound. This is not poetry. This is pattern. Look closely at anyone you admire, anyone who seems to walk through life with quiet clarity and strength, and you will find, somewhere in their past, a moment that broke them open. Not a moment that broke them completely, a moment that broke them open. There is a difference. To be broken completely is to stay in the wreckage, believing the story ends there. To be broken open is to discover that underneath the wreckage there was something in you that pain alone could reach, something that comfort never could. Comfort teaches you very little. It lets you stay exactly as you are. But real pain interrupts you. It stops you mid-sentence in the life you were living and forces you to ask questions you were too busy or too comfortable to ask before. Why am I really doing this? What am I actually afraid of? What have I been avoiding by staying busy? I am not telling you to search for pain or to romanticize suffering. That is not wisdom. That is another trap. What I am telling you is this: when pain finds you, and it will, do not waste it. Do not let it pass through you without asking what it came to teach. Every ending carries a lesson disguised as a loss. The friendship that faded taught you what loyalty actually feels like, by its absence. The failure that humiliated you taught you what you were truly attached to. Was it the work itself or the applause? The heartbreak that hollowed you out taught you how much of your identity you had quietly handed to another person to hold pain. When faced honestly becomes a kind of teacher that flatters no one and lies to no one. It does not tell you what you want to hear. It tells you what you need to know. This is why so many people who have endured great difficulty go on to help others through the exact same difficulty. It is not a coincidence. Their pain became a map. And once you have walked through the dark using your own two hands to feel the walls, you become someone who can guide others through it, not with theory, but with memory. So if you are in pain right now, I will not tell you it is a blessing. I will not tell you to be grateful for it. That is not honest, and you deserve honesty. What I will tell you is this: pain is not the opposite of purpose. Pain is very often the doorway to it. And you are closer to that doorway than you think. But a doorway means nothing if you are not willing to walk through it. And walking through it requires something most people are terrified to do: leaving behind who they used to be. 3. The death of the old identity. Here is a truth that very few people are willing to say clearly. You cannot become who you are meant to be while still holding on to who you used to be. Not your old habits, not your old title, not the version of you that other people fell in love with, got used to, and now expect you to remain forever, simply because it is familiar to them. This is the hardest death there is. Not the death of the body, but the death of identity. And unlike the seed in the ground, which grows without resistance, we resist this kind of death with everything we have. We cling to the old self because it is known, and the unknown, no matter how much better it may be, feels like danger to the mind. I want you to notice something. The parts of you that are the loudest when you try to change, the doubt, the fear, the voice that says, "This isn't really you," those parts are not protecting you. They are protecting the old identity. Because that identity, whether it made you happy or not, learned how to survive. And anything that has learned how to survive will fight to keep existing, even if it is no longer serving you. This is why change feels like grief. Because it is grief. You are not simply gaining a new direction. You are losing an old self, one that had a name, a role, a way of being seen by others. And even if that self was in pain, even if that self was small and afraid, it was familiar. Familiar feels safe, even when it isn't. But here is what I have come to understand, slowly, through many such deaths of my own. Every version of you that you have outgrown was never wasted. It carried you exactly as far as it could. It was not weak for ending. It was simply finished. Think of the old identity like a garment worn through many seasons. It kept you warm once. It served its purpose. But if you keep wearing it long after it no longer fits, it will not protect you anymore. It will only weigh you down, holding the shape of a person you no longer are. Letting it go is not betrayal. It is respect for the self who wore it, and for the self who is ready for something new. You do not need to know exactly who you are becoming to begin releasing who you were. That certainty comes later, quietly, after the letting go, not before it. Your task right now is simpler and harder: to stop performing a version of yourself that has already quietly died. And when you finally let it go, fully, without apology, you will not feel lost. You will feel, for the first time in a long while, light. 4. Letting go without losing yourself. There is a fear that visits almost everyone standing at the edge of change. Not the fear of the unknown itself, but a quieter, more personal fear. If I let go of who I was, will I disappear? This fear feels reasonable. It feels like protection. But I want you to look at it closely, because it is built on a misunderstanding. Letting go of an old identity does not mean losing yourself. It means finally meeting yourself, the part that was always there, underneath the roles you played and the labels others gave you. Think about a river. A river changes constantly. The water flowing past you right now is not the same water that flowed a moment ago. And yet, you still call it the same river. Why? Because what makes it the river is not the water itself. It is the riverbed, the deeper shape that remains even as everything on the surface moves and changes. You are the same. Your habits change, your title changes, your beliefs, your relationships, even your body, all of it moves like water. But underneath all of that movement there is something steady, a quiet awareness that has been present through every version of you that has ever existed. Now, the child you were, the person who made mistakes you still think about, the one reading these words right now, all of them share one witness. That witness is who you truly are. So when you let go of an old identity, you are not losing that witness. You are simply changing what flows past it. This is why real change never requires you to become someone else. It only requires you to stop performing a role that was never truly you to begin with. The anxious achiever, the people pleaser, the one who stays quiet to keep the peace. These are not who you are. These are strategies you learned, often very young, often to survive a moment that no longer exists. You are allowed to release the strategy without releasing yourself. I want you to sit with a simple question, one I have asked myself many times in many difficult seasons. If I stripped away every title, every achievement, every opinion others have of me, who would still be standing here? That answer, whatever it is for you, is the part of you that letting go can never touch. Everything else was never permanent to begin with. There is a certain peace that comes once you understand this. You stop gripping so tightly to the roles you play. You stop being terrified of criticism, of change, of being seen differently by people who only knew an old version of you. Because you know, quietly, that the witness inside you was never up for negotiation. But knowing this is not the same as living it. And living it requires something practical, something you must do, not just understand. 5. The discipline of beginning again. Wisdom without action is only a beautiful thought, and I did not come here today to leave you with beautiful thoughts. I came to leave you with something you can use tomorrow morning, when the silence returns and the old habits call you back to what is familiar. Beginning again is not a single moment. It is not a dramatic turning point you experience once and then coast on for the rest of your life. Beginning again is a discipline. It is something you choose quietly again and again, especially on the days when no one is watching and nothing feels like it is working. Here is what I have learned about new beginnings that no one tells you. They rarely feel exciting. They feel small. They feel almost boring. The first day of a new habit does not feel like transformation. It feels like showing up to an empty room and doing something simple, alone, without applause. This is precisely why most people quit before anything real has had time to grow. They are waiting to feel different before they act different. But it works the other way. The feeling comes after the action, not before it. If you are waiting to feel ready, to feel confident, to feel like the version of yourself you are trying to become, you will wait a very long time. Confidence is not something you find before you begin. It is something you build slowly through the evidence of small promises kept to yourself. This is the real discipline, not grand declarations, not perfect plans. Just this, doing the smallest right thing today, even when it is unremarkable, even when no one notices, even when the results are invisible. A single page written, a single hard conversation had, a single morning where you choose stillness over your phone. These moments seem too small to matter, but they are not small. They are the roots beneath the soil, growing exactly the way we spoke of at the very beginning. There will be days you fail at this. You will skip the habit. You will fall back into old patterns you thought you had already released. I want to tell you something important about this moment, because it is the moment where most people give up entirely. Failing to begin again is not the same as failing completely. It only becomes failure if you decide the story ends there. The discipline is not about never falling. It is about how quickly and how gently you return, not with punishment, not with harsh words toward yourself, but the way you would guide a child back to the path, with patience, with firmness, and without giving up on them. Every single time you begin again, you are casting a vote for the person you are becoming, and eventually, quietly, without announcement, that person arrives. 6. Becoming who you were always meant to be. I want to tell you something that may surprise you. You are not becoming someone new. You are becoming someone old. Someone who was always there, underneath the noise, underneath the roles, underneath the fear, waiting patiently for you to stop running long enough to notice them. This is the quiet secret behind every transformation that has ever mattered. It was never about building a stranger from nothing. It was about clearing away everything that was never truly you until what remained was simply you. Undisguised, unafraid, whole. Every silence you have sat through, every pain you have allowed to teach you instead of destroy you, every old identity you have gently set down, every small act of beginning again, all of it was not decoration on top of your life. It was excavation. You were not adding something. You were uncovering something that was buried under years of performing, protecting, and surviving. This is why the process feels less like becoming and more like remembering. There are moments, if you are honest, when you catch a glimpse of yourself, in a quiet decision, in a boundary you finally held, in a version of you that feels calmer, steadier, more your own, and something inside you recognizes it, not as new, as familiar, as if you always knew this person was in there, waiting. I will not tell you this journey ends. It does not. There will be more silences ahead of you, more pain that interrupts your comfort, more identities you will need to release, long after you thought you were finished releasing. This is not a flaw in the path. This is the path. Life does not ask you to arrive once and stay there. It asks you to keep returning to yourself, chapter after chapter, for as long as you are alive. But you are not walking this path unprepared anymore. You now understand what the silence is for. You understand that pain, however unwelcome, often carries purpose folded quietly inside it. You understand that letting go of who you were is not a loss, but a return to something steadier underneath. And you understand that becoming is not one dramatic leap, but 1,000 quiet mornings of beginning again. So when the next chapter comes, and it will come, often uninvited, often at the worst possible time, you will not meet it the way you once did. You will not panic in the silence. You will not resent the pain. You will not cling so tightly to who you were that you miss the person you are becoming. You will simply sit still, breathe, and begin.